The great doors have started to close, March 20th, 2020. These are unprecedented times, not only in this physical world, but in the spiritual world as well. The earth has finally committed to ascending to the fifth dimension. As such, Source and many other entities working in harmony with one another are all providing as much energy as possible to humans, helping them to remember who they really are and start living in that way. The great doors are a path through which all of this supporting and helping energy is coming through into this world. On March 20th, 2020, these doors started to close. With the closing of these doors, the energy is getting more intense, more powerful, remarkably similar to the concept of Bernoulli's principle. With the closing of the doors, the energy is getting more intense, more powerful. An example is when you have a hose and you start to reduce the diameter of the orifice. The stream of fluid coming out intensifies up to a point, then slows. The time frame for these doors to close started March 20th, 2020. The gates will be fully closed on December 12th, 2021. Once these gates are closed on December 12th, 2021, they will not reopen for 26,000 years. The energy being given to us at this time is the last effort being provided to humans at this time for the Earth's ascension to the fifth dimension. It is intended to help us overcome the efforts of those entities and forces that are imprisoning us in this world of limitations. It is to their advantage to keep us here. Ascension from this physical world operates on a cycle of 26,000 years. We are at the very end of this present cycle. All of the humans who are ready will ascend to the fifth dimension within 12 to 15 years from now. The shift from the third dimension to the fifth dimension is quite possibly one of the most difficult shifts for all who make it. This physical world in which we live provides us with such an abundance of emotions across such a spectrum that we have created industries around it. Consider dramatic movies, reality shows, interviews, news reports, psychology, psychiatric care, psychiatric medicine, psychiatric hospitals, etc. The beings in other densities are sometimes amazed at how many emotions we have relative to theirs. One of the biggest things we will have to contend with that life and this world prepares us against is that the fifth density world where we will be ascending to is constant love and happiness. Except when we are falling in love, this is far from the norm. Actually, feeling this way can be considered the norm. Consider this. When is the last time you were in bliss for a month? A week? A day? An hour? A half hour? Or even 15 minutes? Like most of us, probably never except when love was new. Now consider this as the norm for your whole life. Are you ready for this? This is why we have to start to prepare now. If we are not ready, the shift will be too much for us and we will cause huge problems for all those around us. So even though the ascension is 12 to 15 years out, we need to prove that we are ready to ascend. If we are not ready, we are not going to ascend. So start living with the four principal emotions of all the dimensions above the third: love, gratitude, harmony, and forgiveness for all, no exceptions. What is our situation now? Our situation right now is very precarious. We are on the brink of an excessively big decision. This decision will decide what happens to us as projections of our higher self for the foreseeable future. We have two choices of which train to get on. Choice one is to remain the way we are, keep doing, thinking, and acting in the way we're doing right now. Effectively do nothing different, which is the really easy path, and we will get on the train that will be staying in this third dimension. Choice two. The goal, effort, and reason of my relaying this information from the Japanese master Namiki Yoshikazu is simply to help you to get on the other train, along with the other awakened people. This is the train that will lead us to ascend with the earth to the fifth dimension, where the earth will be rebuilt with love, gratitude, and harmony. Getting on this train requires a lot of effort since we have been conditioned so well in this physical world to not remember or realize who we really are, but to believe that we are powerless and unworthy. This world and those that control it have done a fantastic job of making us all believe that we are separate from God. This could not be further from the truth. Religions and the so called holy people have used this lie to control us through the entire history. Take an objective look at your history and decide for yourself. For you scientists out there, do a little research to see why scientists are so against the existence of God as a rule. Take a look at the conflict between the Catholic Church and the people of science only a few hundred years back, and now we are finding the God particle. People of science were smart enough to find ways not to be controlled by the church, and therefore rejected the church and got along with it. Where do we stand with all this? For the Earth to achieve this ascension to the fifth dimension, it will require a lot of shifting and sifting on the part of the Earth that will result in a lot of natural disasters like earthquakes, volcanoes, tidal waves, tsunamis, and great storms, the likes of which we've never seen. Preparation for this is a really good idea and is recommended. However, surviving these disasters will require guidance from your higher self as to where to be, when to be there, or not be there. This guidance is available to all of us equally. It comes from your higher self. We need to practice the skill of receiving intuition from our higher selves, much like a basketball player needs to repeatedly throw the ball into the hoop to be able to make fantastic shots. The less practice you have, the less good those shots will be. Remember, the new world will be built with love, gratitude, and harmony. To be a prepper is a good thing, but we also have to look at it from the perspective we are approaching it. Are we approaching it from a point of love for others, or are we approaching it from a point of fear? Once again, let me remind you of the three words that are the focus of our new world: love, gratitude, and harmony. So when you have enough food and water and space, then if you have the opportunity to help someone, please do so. I'm not saying not to be protective or safe with the people you don't know. I'm asking you to consider acting out of love instead of acting out of fear. The divine alarm clock is ringing. We really do not have much time to decide which train we want to be on. As mentioned earlier, there is one train for those who chose before they came down into this body here on earth to ascend with the earth to the fifth dimension, and a different train for those who chose to complete some unfinished training in this third dimension. Please remember, there is no good or bad with these choices. It is dependent entirely on the amount of growth you were able to achieve through your many times being reincarnated in this third dimensional world, and how long ago you started here, because we are not only reincarnated in this world. There are innumerable other worlds and dimensions where we could have spent time. The earth is only one of these many places we could choose from. It also depends on the mastery level at which we want to ascend to the fifth dimension. Do we want to enter it at an entry level, or do we want to go there at an experience level? Remember, there is a very short time frame for making this decision and awakening. The time frame for the doors to close started March 20th, 2020, and the gate will be fully closed on December 12th, 2021. Once this gate is closed, the abundant energy will no longer be available. It does not mean that nobody will be able to change direction at that time. However, it will take a lot of effort on the part of the individual trying to change the direction they can. We really need to pay close attention to our thoughts and the energy that we put out. We must catch ourselves every time we put out judgment of others or to ourselves. We have to catch this and change that energy to pure love and forgiveness. We are all one and the same. As soon as we get past our externally labeled differences, once we get past the skin, how do we know who or what you were and the difference between you and the next person, whomever that might be? We don't. I hope that this information has been useful to you and that you will pass it on to as many others as you can in hopes of helping as many people ascend to the fifth dimension quickly. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below.